The Lenovo saga continues for me. This is the, I guess the last item I bought on the sale, the Lenovo sale. I bought quite a bit because I needed to upgrade my entire system because everything I have is on the other side of the country. So I decided to pick up this monitor as well. This one arrived a little bit later because I bought the larger one first, and then because I liked it, I decided to get the smaller one. So this monitor here is a 23.8 inch Lenovo L24q-30. It's a 1440p monitor. I've done a video on the one beside it, which is a 27 inch monitor. And the main difference between these two is just the size. This is a 27 inch, this is a 23.8, but everything else is the same. The specs are the same. I was debating on getting two large screens, but it's a bit much for the desk setup that I have. And based on the work that I do, I don't think I actually needed to have two gigantic widescreen 27 inch monitors, so that's fine. But I did want, as best as I could, to match up everything else in terms of the displays to make sure that they're basically the same monitor, so that they look the same, but like in terms of the design, but more importantly, the actual the image that they display is the same. So I'll just quickly go through the specs. I mean, you can always go back and watch my other video on the larger screen, and you'll see they're the same specs. So I wanted to get something that had more or less the same specs between the two screens. So they're both IPS screens, which means you get great viewing angles. They're really, really nice and multi-display setup because you're not having any compromises there. They're going to be the same that way. Let's go back here. Actually, let's get a little closer to this one because he's the one that we're talking about today. Okay, so anyways, it has a brightness of, it says here 240, but it actually goes up to 350 in peak. If you look at the other screen over here, this is the only place that they are different. This one just has a brightness of 350. So what does that mean? When you have the exact same settings, when I had this one set up to just, there's just a preset default, you hit it, it's just sRGB, you hit the button, and it's done. I have this one on sRGB. They actually don't look the same. They're slightly different. So what I ended up doing is I set the big one to sRGB, and then this one here I went through and I tweaked it so that they're matching. And now they're, to what I can see in my eyes, they're identical. I can't tell any difference here. So that's something to be aware of if you are weird and you get this set up like me, that's slightly different sizes, then they're not completely identical just in terms of settings. You have to tweak them a little bit, but other than that, they're pretty much the same. So same contrast ratio, 1000 to 1. You get the dynamic contrast really high, which is a setting you can turn on. 4 millisecond response time. I'll go through the settings real quick. So you have, let's go back here. Actually, let's start there. So you can go to HDMI and DP DisplayPort. It has both. It doesn't have USB-C, but it has HDMI and DisplayPort, so you can use both, and you can switch between them as needed. This is where you can set up the preset mode. So you can go in here and you can hit neutral, blue, red, sRGB. On the larger monitor, I have it set up to sRGB, and then this one, what I basically did is just matched it because the sRGB on this was slightly darker, which, it's not a big deal, but I don't know, I noticed it, so why not make them the same if I have the capability of doing that? So that you can set. Custom makes it have a red, green, or blue tint. I don't like any of those. So let's go back and set it to neutral. Low blue light is nice if you're working late at night. It'll reduce eye strain, and it also helps reduce sleep interference. So if you have a lot of blue light before you go to bed, your brain essentially thinks it's daytime to some degree. It's been shown to shut off melatonin production and other things. So it's good to not have a screen right in front of you right before you go to bed. There's actually really solid research on that. There's been for a long time. So anyways, so these are the settings I use to get it set up basically in the sRGB of the other one. So I put brightness up to 100, and I put contrast around 80 to 85. It's just playing with it a bit, which is fine. You can set up dynamic contrast ratio, which has a change. It turns off all the other settings, and it will be variable based on what you have on the screen. But because I won't have the same thing on both screens, I probably will leave that off. and use the sets that I went with. You can set up Overdrive on this monitor, so that helps if you have, this is only a 60 hertz refresh rate. So if you have, if you had a monitor that was much higher, say a 240 hertz refresh rate, the pixel speed can be too low, and so what happens is you get ghosting or like trails on things. So on faster screens, on higher refresh rate screens, you may want to turn that on. From what I've read, you kind of just set it to extreme on these and then just leave it. It's not a big deal. It's not going to make a huge difference, but that's that. So those are all the settings you basically have, and I've actually never looked at these. Cool. Yep, fine. Okay, so let's go and throw on my now apparently standardized Scenic Revelations. This Sony thing that I watch for screens for some reason, because I don't know, I just like it. It's got nice colors. It's supposed to be for 4Ks, but this is the one I normally watch. There we go. So hard to tell because that's a bad viewing angle, but you know, you can tell here they other than the terrible reflection from the window coming in because the sun is directly on the screen, they look great. So this one is actually not getting glare from the screen from the window because the way that it is, this one is. So but to my eyes you actually can't see that glare, it's just on the screen. But really vibrant colors, quite nice. The bezels on it are really small, like tiny, you know, a millimeter or two up here. The interesting thing is the actual image doesn't start directly at the edge of the screen, so you have this like, the screen continues on, but there's almost like a false bezel where the pixels just don't actually, there's no pixels there. But it looks nice actually, so you don't get a big like gaudy actual bezel, plastic bezel on the side. So yeah, so you know, I could have definitely got two 27-inch screens, but I decided not to because I didn't want it to be, you know, way over the side here. It wasn't necessary. You know, I may actually just turn this vertical even too, for what I do. And another really nice thing is this one here was on sale. I got it for $230 or so. I'll have to check the other video. This one was like $200, which is just a crazy price for what it is. With like taxes in and shipping, you know, and I'm in Canada, but we have free trade, so there's no importation costs because Lenovo makes a lot of their stuff in the USA. So yeah, I didn't have to pay anything like that. So basically, it was around like $200 delivered to my door, which is just for this price, for this quality of screen, just almost a steal. So, anyways, there you go. I really like them. Great screens, great monitors. If you can, don't pay full price, but if you can get them for a good price on sale, $200 to $250 for this guy, you know, $250 probably for that one. I think they're one of the better options you can get out there. So thanks for watching.